Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. And I do listen to you guys in the comments. Many of you have been asking me to do a teardown of the Salvo, so I'm going to go through with that with you today. Also, people wanted to know where I got this irregular defense copy cheap riser. This isn't a real one, this is a copy. There's actually a guy on Cults that does these. I think his name's Draconics or something like that. Does them for various different stocks. The only thing I will say is if you buy the one for the MCX minimalist stock, it doesn't fit the salvos, so I've had to modify it to fit in the file, which if you message him, he responds pretty well. So he made this for the APFGs and Real Steel specs, and the salvo stocks are thinner than Real Steel specs. So he was happy enough to send me the file so I could just adjust some of the dimensions and it gets into the salvo stock. But anyway, we want to take apart this today, and for those of you wanting to upgrade and do anything like that, you've asked if I can do a video on stripping this down. You'll of course see this is a little bit different because cheat riser, Difrico Kung Fu grip, Difrico Tiger Claw. This is the Virtus model, but it should work for all models. The only thing you'll find is if you go for like the Spear, the 11.5 that is, you'll have the dual bolt release. So you got the ambidextrous bolt release, which on the Rattler, the CSAW and the Virtus, you don't get that as far as I'm aware. So, you know, fairly simple. Push the two pins, pops the lower off there, and then we can set this to one side. We'll have a look at this in a moment. What I will say is the Z plate on the Salvo compared to the Toxicants are a little bit more aggressive in their angle of catchment on the bolt. So the Toxicant ones are really flat here where they need to have a bit more of a wedge. So it's nice to see that. They also look like they're made out of a stronger material. Going from there, we can pull the bolt out just by pulling the charging handle back, and then we can retrieve the bolt system. I can pull the charging handle out as well. And that's everything in the innards stripped. We can also take off the handguard once we've took the front pin out just by pushing that forward. They've got a really good fitment on these from Salvo. And you get to this part. So you've got numbered screws here. Usually these are Torx or Allen key bolts, but Salvo decided to put, you know, Phillips style heads on these. So we're just going to have to deal with it. So I think what I'll do is find out the screw specs for this and then just get some in Torx fitment that are a higher grade of steel and then replace them. I am working on parts for the Salvos as well as the Toxicants. The first parts that I'm going to be releasing are a integrated buffer system. So basically, you know, long story short, we'll just be replacing this hard plastic buffer system with a TPU style material to help absorb impact from the bolt. And those should be ready soon. So I'll be doing a set for the Salvos. I'll do one for the Toxicants as well. And of course, I'll be doing one for the Toxicant XM5. So you can pull this bracket off here once you've loosened those screws up. The bracket on the back will fall off as well. And they all do this a little bit differently. Sometimes they hide screws here and there. With the other brands, we've found that, you know, you have to get a little bit, you know, involved to get this thing apart. I'm not sure if this is the case with the Salvos. So the XM5 had a hidden screw, well, not a hidden screw, but had a screw here. These, I would imagine, should pull out the front, but I don't see anything holding it on there. Maybe we have to loose off the adjuster, but there is a bolt, what looks like a bolt, all the way down the bottom there. You can see it. So that might be a bit of a pain to get to. So we'll see. Yeah, this doesn't want to come out at the moment. So I'm guessing something is holding it in. So I can see 3 screws down there. But to get to those, how are we going to do that? So I imagine we're going to have to pull the front apart. So we'll take off this flash hider. Again, I haven't looked this up online. I'm literally just winging it. As what many of you probably would do, purchasing a Salvo yourselves. So we've got those 2 bolts out. That should come out. I can't remember the toxicants. I'm sure there was a system with the toxicants where we pulled out the adjuster. It is difficult to see down into there. There doesn't seem to be anything blocking the passage. So you would think that it would just pull out the front. That being said, it doesn't want to move. So what we're going to have to do is start stripping this down a little further here. So we'll pull the gas block off. I'll get my armourer's block so people don't have an aneurysm. And we'll get these pins tapped out there. What size will we need? That is a 4mm punch. Got these 2 split pins. Come out easily enough with that punch. We've got an Allen key fitment on the bottom here. So let's use a high quality one because we know these screws tend to like to strip, don't they? So that one, get that removed. It's a 1.5mm Allen key. We can slide that out. Sometimes they have a barrel system that screws on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the accessories off to make this job a little easier. Still doesn't want to come out. So you might be able to more clearly see those screws down the bottom there now. So there's 3 screws. And it does look like we've got some grub screws on the top of the barrel segment. I don't know why they don't just keep it so you just clip this in and all that could be removed as one. But I suppose then you'd lose the little spring and plunger for your Hot Wheel. So we're going to have to find something that will fit down into here. This one's going to be a little bit big, I think. So let's try find a better tool. Long Allen keys, something I don't have a lot of. But we're going to do our best here. Right. Try this one. Now with the Aaron Smith, they did have a similar screw, but with the Aaron Smith, they gave you a nice long Allen key so you could easily, you know, adjust it. Let's put something in here to get a bit more torque. Like that. So if we remove this, it should give us the adjuster. I'm sure there's people out there that took these apart that are probably screaming at their screens right now going, you're doing it wrong. But having never took one of these apart before, I am guessing. So there comes the adjuster. You need to be careful of that little pin and spring, so we'll place it upside down. That coming out, It looks like maybe those other two screws hold the barrel system in. So we will try and get this Allen key, it's a 2mm Allen key by the way, into those two screws. Which is slightly difficult when you haven't got an Allen driver that's long. There we go. That one does not want to turn out at all. Try the other one. Yeah, that one doesn't want to adjust either. So this might be a bit tricky. Can we pull it out yet? Thing is, there doesn't really seem to be anything in the way of that part moving forward. So is it just in there tight? Does sound like there's a bit of movement there. Right, what can we do? Let's just see if we can make a bit of leverage on this. There we go. So I managed to pull it out. All I did, because it's very tight, and it might be a case of you can pull it out with that adjuster, is put a big flathead in there like that, just turn it slightly to pull apart these two sides of the receiver block, and you'll see this here. See how it moved as soon as I did that? So you're probably going to find that this is just a very, very tight fit. And there you have it. So yes, it will go in that way. You won't need to remove your adjuster beforehand. So I'm always just a little bit careful with this thing. Now this just does encapsulate the spring and the pin on the wheel. Let's get a higher quality Allen key. So it was just tight, but you know, having that thing with the toxicant where I was like, what's holding this in? And it was just a screw that I thought had nothing to do with the system. Not looked at any manuals or any guides or anything like that, because you know my style, we just like to try and figure it out. I don't always get it right. But yeah, you should be able to, on yours, just slide that out. Now, again, the trick, you'll see I go to put this in, it gets stuck. Now, I'm just going to push on this with my chest here, and you'll see that it doesn't want to go in at all. But if we just put a little bit of leverage on the receiver, it pops in all the way. See how it won't come out? Doesn't matter how much I push, it's not going to do it. A little bit of pressure on the inside of the receiver like that, just prying the metal apart ever so slightly to clear the tolerance. And you can slide it out the front there. Look at that. Easy peasy, as they say. Now, once you've got this out, what you're going to want to do is, if you've got this far, if you've watched this video beforehand, then happy days. You're not going to be messing around like I was. To get your adjuster out, it's that center screw with a 2mm Allen key. And you're going to remove that screw to pull out your adjuster. Just be careful you don't let that spring go skidding across the room. There's your screw. Very much a similar system to how you screw in the adjuster on a normal Maru M4. And then we should, after removing the adjuster, be able to just push this out. So many ways you can do this, but I just like to get a flat tipped tool like this big Allen key here. Just make sure you're on the on the edge of the outer barrel, and then just very carefully push. What you don't want to do is slip and let that tool go down you in a barrel and cause some damage. And there is your barrel, all nice and neatly pulled out. It's going to accept a Titan nub. You know, you put like a nice barrel in, like a Lilacs or something similar, and a nice rubber Titan nub. I think that it's going to be a very good combo in the Salvo. Now, if you're not familiar with MWS hop units, you've got a little O-ring that sits on the front. If you just pull this away from the hop unit, you've got a large O-ring that goes around the hop unit. See if I can slide this off here. And you want to pull that off the front of the hop unit like that. And then what that enables you to do is pull the two halves apart, and there you have it. Hop rubber, nub, and hop arm. Change it out, whatever you want to do your maintenance, put the two halves together, make sure it's all lined up first. Slide your O-ring, and now the easiest way I found to do this is if you get your O-ring in your fingers like that, pull down on one side, hold it in this slot, and then just run your thumb around the edge, and it will place that O-ring for you. And that's back together. The rest of the outer barrel, you shouldn't really need to worry about. Now, I'm going to pull these screws out just because we'll see how much further the rabbit hole goes. These two screws will be holding this plate on, but honestly, there's no reason to take them off. So if we extract these two countersunk screws, might have to pull them out all the way here. Again, a 2mm Allen key to do so. And then we can slide your outer barrel off. Very simple indeed. To put it back on, push that in, line up the two holes, get your two countersunk screws, screw these back in, like that. 1 and 2. Just nip them up, don't need to go overboard with them. Slide your hop and barrel assembly back in. I will of course be upgrading this at a later date. Make sure it's nicely seated. Pick this up very carefully. That plunger and that spring are the items that you don't want to lose. And you basically want to have the barrel upside down and the claw, or the whatever you want to call it, on the hop. You want to have that coming up, and that needs to go over the hop arm like that so it can pull it up. Once that's seated in place, you can get your hop adjuster screw, place it in there, make sure it all lines up, which I'm doing a poor job of at the minute, and then screw in your adjuster. Kind of a similar system to the Toxicant, but there you go. Everything's installed. Take your receiver, line this metal part up with the sections in the rail here like that. You'll see when it's in there I can't pull it up, so you need to make sure it's in those grooves before you insert it into the receiver. Now I've given that a really good push and it's gone in there, so happy days. You don't need to remove your gas block like I did. Again, just me being overly cautious, not wanting to damage anything during disassembly. Ooh. What we can do first is we can nip up this grub screw, which lines that up with the barrel. Place this onto our armourer's block here. These style pins are a bit of a nightmare. So you'll see one side has more of a tapered fit than the other. So we're going to push that part in first. We'll get it started. with the hammer, like that. Grab the other one. Find the taper, put that part in first. And give it a tap, just making sure that it's straight and centered. And then we're going to get our punch, and we're just going to knock the top of the pin so it's flush with the lowest part of the hole, which I'll show you in just a moment. You need a 4mm punch for that. Just take your time with it. Last thing you want to do is slip and scratch your parts up, so you're basically just hitting it flush with this lower edge here in the hole, and then you won't protrude on the other side. You could go a little bit further, but honestly I don't think we need to. Maybe just a little tap so it's behind the metal like that, and we're good to go. With that on there, we can take our barrel clamp pieces and slide this back onto the receiver like that. These are numbered. I think they're numbered on the real guns, so you torque screw 1 up before screw 2. With these being Phillips, we're not going to go overboard with it because it's kind of outdated in terms of screw technology. But slide this into the rails, very nice fit. Slap that home, it should all line up there, and you're good to go. Now, with the bolt assembly, again, we're going to make sure we're using a nice high quality Allen key here. This is a 2mm. Sometimes you might have to heat these up. These ones actually don't need it because they are, you know, not super glued or thread locked in place. So we'll remove that one. I have had this bolt apart a few times because I was doing a bit of R&D. So you'll see one screw's longer, so the longer screw goes in the front one. Pull that off the top there. There's no real need to mess about with this or take it apart, so I advise you don't. Now with these, with the springs in there, if you just pull this up slightly, the spring will fall out the bottom. And what you want to do is lift this up and push it to the front. With that removed, you can pull out the rear plastic retaining piece, and then you can slide out your nozzle. Sometimes the O-ring that sits on the back of the spring retainer will sometimes sit inside the bolt at the bottom, but it hasn't. It's come out on this part, so there you go. Now you've got to your nozzle. You've got a very small Phillips style screw, so we're going to grab a screwdriver of the correct size. This is a number 0. But, you know, just make sure you've got something of the correct size so you don't damage your screw. We slide that screw out. Once we've done that, we can actually pull out the nozzle spring assembly. Sometimes this might be a little bit reluctant to come out. Just make sure you don't pull it without, like, see how I retained it with my thumb and forefinger? What that does is it stops you pulling this out like this. This builds up pressure, and then this shoots back, and it can whack you in the fingers. So we'll tap this out here. You'll see there is the Jaeger Precision end pass for MWS. Now the product of this on the website has now been updated. So the end pass, as well as fitting the Maruis and the Guns Modify nozzles, is now also compatible out of the packet with Salvo Precision and Double Eagle nozzles as well. Some of the manufacturers that I don't normally deal with, you may need a bit of modification. Having a similar situation with Jack's Saviour, the PCC, where it's not Marui spec and this is just too big, so we're going to have to modify one to fit, and of course the valve spring will follow with it. And that's pretty much all disassembled. Again, if you're not replacing this piece on the top, just leave it alone. But to pull these out, you're just going to basically pull these out. Not going to be able to do it now. Pull these out slightly and they'll come off this little retaining plastic tab on the nozzle with a spring. But if that isn't causing you any issues, honestly, just leave it alone. Right, so we put the valve in. And I have seen a couple of posts where people have put the valves in this way. That's the wrong way to do it. Spring first. And then push that in there like that. We'll nudge this forward here. Sometimes a spring will get caught up on the nozzle. There we go. So you should see the screw section like that. Now the important part. So you'll line up the valve retainer, whatever you want to call it, like so. So the hole is top and bottom. And then if we look through this hole here, hopefully I can get you to see this. So we're just pushing this down, which will push that plastic piece down. It'll push the nozzle valve forward. And eventually, I've just not got it set up with the camera properly. You'll see daylight. Once you see that, the hole is in line with where the screw goes through. And push the screw back in. We screw this back in just till it stops. You haven't got to torque it down or anything like that. We then take our nozzle assembly. Just going to push that O-ring on there. Hopefully it will retain it. This is where you lube it up, do whatever you need to do. Take your bolt, have the bottom side facing up. Take your nozzle, have the gas port facing up. Slide it in like so. And you'll try your best to line this up like that. Now you'll see, well, how do I get that through there? It's very simple. You get a thin tool of some kind and you basically just want to go in. There's a little hole on that flat face and pull it out like that. If you've got a tool that can go through it like that, great. And then to put this plastic piece on, you're basically just going to put a bit of pressure on to pull that back. Slide your plastic retainer in, and then you can pull your tool out and it's held in place there. Just for reference in size, that's a 1.5mm Allen driver, but anything will work. I've used all kinds of tools, whatever's to hand at the time. Pull your nozzle forward, take your top piece, line it up with your nozzle like that. It should slip inside your bolt there and then goes on the top. Now, with a normal MWS, you'd put your screws in and then you put the spring in. Now with the Salvo, it's a little bit different. We need to put the spring in first. So you don't want to fit this spring before the plastic piece. This is what this hole is here for. So you slide that in and under. And then you want to get yourself a small flathead screwdriver or something that you can get in the coils of the spring. You're going to slide it into the coils of the spring like that. And you're basically going to push up to push the spring in, and then pull your screwdriver out, and then that will sit on the little tab inside that plastic piece. Simple as that. We put the recoil springs on top, long screw in the front, shorter screw in the back. If you're going to use Loctite on these screws, use like the weaker Loctite, because you want these to be able to be removed. And we just screw these in like so. Don't need to go crazy. I always check, if you've gone out to a couple of games or you've shot it at home and you've shot like 1,000 or 2,000 rounds, it's very easy to just pull your bolt out, get your 2mm Allen driver, and if your screws are loose, just nip them up. You haven't got to go crazy, because if you go crazy, you'll either thread your screws or you'll snap your screw heads off, which we have seen some people do, which is a pain to then repair. Once that's done, I'm going to wipe my hands off first because they're covered in grease. So you don't want to get all greasy fingerprint marks on your receiver. You take your charging handle, loosely lie that in place, take your bolt assembly, slide that in like that, and you're good to go. Now with the lower, most of the time you won't have to mess with your lower whatsoever. They are fairly easy to take out. I haven't done it yet on the Salvo, but I'm guessing it's very straightforward. Let's go through it, shall we? So first of all, we want to pull off our mag release, and we basically do that by pushing the mag release in, pulling it out, and we turn. So pull, make sure you clear your bolt release, turn, pull, turn. Just do it in half steps. And just keep going like that. Just making sure each time you clear your receiver and you clear your bolt release. The more you unwind it, the easier it will be to clear the components. You'll see now I'm just able to spin it. You'll feel it release. You can let that go. Let your other finger go, which will pull out your mag release button and your spring. So on these, you've got a screw in the back. So with that, we're going to need, I believe, a 2.5. And we can release the screw and the weird little sort of anti-rotation washer. Is my camera gonna, like that. Pull that out. We need to pull out the selectors. So I'm guessing this is going to be a 1.5. Let's see, I've got a 1.5, it's a little bit longer. So this actually looks a little bit smaller. So what have we got here? This is why it's good to have some of these sets where it's got the weird sizes, and I'm probably looking straight at it. So 1.3. So it is a 1.3mm Allen key. The problem with that is, are we going to be able to reach here? We're going to take out this little grub screw. Keep that safely to one side. I'm going to leave it on the screwdriver there. And then you pull off your right hand side selector. And then what you're basically going to do, there's many brands that do it slightly differently. So we're just going to select between, you know, full and safe. As we turn it, we're pushing it out, and that will enable you to pull out your selector. You've got one more pin to go, which is this main pin here. The rest are not used. Well, they're not normally used in MWS, so we're going to find out here. So we're going to punch this out here. So we're going to take our pin punch, which this is a 3mm pin punch. You could probably get away with a 4, but... And you want to go left side of the receiver to the right side. You'll see when you remove this, not only do you have knurling, which is on the right side, you've also got this little notch, which needs to sit. If you're holding the rifle like this, it needs to sit on the right hand side. Once you've removed all that, unlike a Tokyo Marui, you can just pull your trigger pack out. Now, if you're using a standard Marui MWS, you'll know that is easier said than done. And it looks like these use standard Z plates. So what I'm going to quickly do is grab one and see if it's compatible. Okay, here's a raw, unfinished Jaeger Precision Z plate. And it looks like this will work just fine. So let's put the bolt release on here. So these Salvo Precisions use normal Z plates, like Marui Z plates. The Toxicants unfortunately use their own, which is non-travelling. So what I mean by that, on a normal Z plate, you've got this little channel at the back here. And what that means is, as your Z plate's in, your empty mag activates the Z plate like so. That catches your bolt. And then as the bolt moves forward, it pushes on this little cam here, and then the spring and pin just gets pushed back, so it dampens the returning force of the bolt. With the Toxicant MCX series, they've done away with this. They've just got a single hole, so the Z plate is fixed in place, which gives it a hard stop. That, along with the very sort of low catch angle of the Z plates, I've heard is making them less reliable. Now, this is literally an MWS trigger box with a adapted left side, and what I mean by that is to actuate their full auto sears, you've got this little arm on the side like a Toxicant. So this is exactly the same as any other, apart from that one part, it's the same as any other MWS trigger box. So you can go back, look at videos of the MWSs or the Double Eagles, which this looks very similar to. Take these 3 screws out and you can pull the trigger box apart. I've done it in many videos, so this video is already at like half an hour, so I'm not going to do that today, otherwise it's going to be an hour-long video. But it's very simple. 3 screws, you can pop the side off, and then you can pull all your hammer components, everything else like that, your valve knocker, everything else. Now with the Salvos, I don't think I checked the components. So the hammer is steel. The rear sears are not. The side sear feels a little bit like it. Kind of feels like it's attracted to something else like the pin. So yeah, you do have a steel hammer. Maybe like a stainless roller. Not sure how that's encapsulated. That's kind of weird. So yeah, plenty of guides out there, including on my channel. So what we're going to do, we're going to place this full auto sear back on the one side. It has to sit underneath that latch there. The Z plate, we're actually just going to throw in a Jaeger Z plate like so, which gives us much more forward of a catch angle. It gives you a lot more reliable catch on the bolt release, on the bolt catch. And of course, this is a very high grade stainless, so it's going to be much stronger than this part. We've been asked to do these in titanium. There's many other companies that do it. I'm looking into it at the moment. I'm just trying to gauge whether it's worth the extra cost, because to be honest with you, every gun I've fitted one of these stainless ones in, I've had no issues with. So I'm kind of on the fence of saying that it doesn't need a titanium Z plate. I've replaced all of mine with these. Now I do have an absolute ton of these almost ready to go. So I've got all the blanks done. I just need to do some finishing on the plates. Just trying to get this spring to stay on the bolt release. What you want to do is just, the hole for the spring is here. What you could do, I suppose, make life easier, is just set this in place like that. But they do tend to like to want to shoot out, and then place that in there. That goes under there. You've almost got some kind of weird system here, like a channel and a hole. I'm not exactly sure what that's for. Maybe a future project of some kind. So with all that together, I'm going to wipe my right hand. I can slide this back into the receiver. Very easy thing to do. I'm first going to hold it in place and punch this pin in. So knurled side on the right hand side. Just going to tap that in. It's generally easier to do this before you put the screw in, because sometimes that screw can cant up the trigger box. So we've got a 2.5mm Allen key. screw this in place like so. Try and get this back together as quickly as possible for you. Let you get back to your whatever it is you were doing. That's screwed in place. I'm going to put the selector in first so we can go in. We basically just want to watch from the other side. So you see it's in there. The gun is currently set to full auto. And basically what we want to do, sometimes you can rotate these and it will catch it. If not, just hold a little bit of pressure with your one finger. Take a tool, press down that black bar that sits on the trigger. Push that down, you'll be able to push it through a little bit further. Now you see that it sits on this pin. Now sometimes you can rotate these with the MCXs and it will go, but this one doesn't feel like it is. So we're just going to push that pin in and then you'll see your selector comes through all the way. Now before you put your other selector on, just make sure it rotates all the way around, which it does. Take the other side of your selector, make sure it correlates with that side. It's very hard to get wrong. And then we're going to take our grub screw with our 1.3mm metric Allen key. Don't have to go crazy on that. And that's back in. The trickiest part for you on these is probably the mag release. Line up that spring. I'm going to push that in. And then we're going to wind in our actual mag release catch. Maybe one more. I'm pretty sure it's quite a fine pitched thread on these. There we go. Perfectly flush. And there's your upper back together. Got there in the end. Most difficult part was putting the mag release back in, but just take your time with it. Don't rush it, don't force it, and just be careful you don't, you know, cross thread that, because it's going to be a pain if you do. Take the lower and the upper, pop them back together, down, push that in. Oh, I don't think, is it not going to like the Z plate? No, I don't think it's the Z plate. What's getting stuck? Has it always been that tough to put together? I don't think it has. Something's definitely not playing ball there. But I'm not sure what. Everything's been put back in. Correctly, otherwise it wouldn't have gone in at all. Pull the bolt out. I think it's to do with the front, you know. No, that seems to be alright. Perhaps they won't work with the Z plates. Maybe they're a little bit too high. Yeah, I think it's the Z plate, so maybe they're not compatible. Maybe it sits just a bit too proud. Right then, well, we found out that they're not especially Marui compatible with the Z plates, so let me get this switch back over. Okay, quickly pull this out here. See if we can line this up. I mean, it's fractional. I mean, it should be fine. It might be because this sits a little bit far forward. But honestly, if we put it back together and it's still the same, we know something else is wrong, but I've checked everything and we should be okay. So I'll put this sear back on there, put that back in, tighten up the screw. Before we tighten that up all the way, let's shove the body pin in. Tighten that up. We'll put the selector back in. I'm not going to bother putting in the fire selector just yet, but selector's back in. Still, I think maybe it was it like that before? Literally nothing on this has changed. So maybe it was the Z plate, but I'll have to look at that at a later date and see if we can get something nicely made for the Salvo series. Hopefully that hasn't been too much of a hard watch for you lot at home. It's just these things, I mean, it's still a fairly new system. So, you know, we're always learning. Hopefully this has helped you though get started with upgrading. I mean, really what you should be doing with these in terms of any type of upgrades personally is end pass, which is just upper, you know, upper receiver part, your barrel components like your hot rubber, your nub and your barrel. There really isn't any point in messing with the lower just yet. We haven't really seen any reports of anything breaking in the lowers. So to be honest with you, until parts are confirmed as being usable with the Salvo, I'll have to do a bit more digging on the Z plates. It would be nice to get them compatible with the Salvos and not have to make a specific product, because, you know, making specific products, it just gets more expensive. It's nice to have the same parts work as other MWS parts. I struggle with this mag release again. Should perhaps skip ahead in the video for this. I might edit this down post filming, just so I'm not sending most of you to sleep. If you can hold it from the other side like that, you'll find it a hell of a lot easier. One more. There we go. So there's how you strip apart your Salvo. Like I said, hopefully it hasn't been too painful for you. I've been learning while I've been doing it. My body must have been tight from the get-go, because nothing else has changed. that would cause the receiver to be tight. I'm pretty sure it was tight when I had it. Nothing else has been messed with. So perhaps, yeah, I think it was always like that, to be honest. Let's put the collar on. Thank you very much for tuning into this long video. I have now got the painstaking task of trying to edit this down as much as I can, so you lot don't fall asleep. Let me know what you think about the Salvo, if you've picked one up. Also, if if you appreciate this video, because many of you are asking for it, just let me know down in the comments below that it's helped you in any way. And it goes a long way, honestly, to know that I've had an impact with a lot of you guys. And, you know, many of you do pop in the Discord from time to time and say thanks for the videos, or this video, that video. And it doesn't go wasted on me. It makes it all worthwhile putting all this effort in, doing all these videos. I've done a lot of videos, probably like over 600, 700 now. So believe you and me, it goes further with me than you realise. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the Salvo down below. Let others know about what tips and tricks, if you found any with the Salvos, down below as well. Check out links in the description. Join the Jaeger Precision Discord. Get involved with the Jaeger Precision community. And as always, from me and Bench, we'll be seeing you in the next one.